I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction here with your cattle market summary for the week ending August the 7th. We had a really good week of trade on most everything. CME cattle futures were higher for the week after we established the lows in the fat cattle and saw some support on box beef last week, and really solid footing this week, and the trade turned active on things, and live cattle were up almost $4 this week, ending the week around 149.57. Feeder cattle for August closed up around 350. They were down on Friday some, but still ended the week around 214 and a quarter. Your CME feeder cattle index there late in the week was 217.07. Your real-time index on Cattle Market Central was around 216.10. But we had a big heavy influx of Southern Plains sales there late in the week on Thursday and Friday on the real-time index, which pulled that back just a little bit. But things are kind of converging and lining up as we're in the spot market on both live cattle and feeder cattle now. But we saw this renewed confidence this week after we established those lows last week, and even in the cash market on feeders, it really came back this week with for the week your yearling feeder cattle selling $1 to $3 higher, and in some spots as much as $14 higher there, especially across the southern tier of Kansas, as those feeder cattle were oversold, really, to use a technical type term that the chart people use, but they just were really too hard on them there all of a sudden, especially those cattle weighing over 800 pounds. But they've come back into those cattle, and in some places there around Dodge City, Winter Livestock, and Pratt, and places like that, those cattle regained almost everything, if not everything, that they lost through those 10 days of really hard markets. And that's just too bad for the sellers that they had the poor timing of selling their big yearlings during that lull there where we saw those prices so low. But we're seeing a lot of cattle coming off the grass there from the Nebraska Sand Hills down through the Kansas Flint Hills and all the way down into Oklahoma Osage there. But a lot of those big yearlings showing up. Of course, a lot of them are going direct and through private tradie sales, and some of them were sold on the video, but we're still seeing a lot of cattle coming through the sales this week. On Cattle Market Central this week, this past week, we saw a lot of loads of yearlings coming in, and we're getting so many sales on Cattle Market Central now. It's just so much fun to watch those sales come through, and just of load lots, pot loads of yearling steers. This past week, there were over 130 of them quoted in the sales that participate with Cattle Market Central. And we invite any sale that would like to be part of us to get a hold of us. And if you've got an updated clerical system, we can tie right into that and have a fully automated market report there that people can get on and see what's been going on. Some of the quotes on load lots we saw this week in Broken Bow, Nebraska, they had 120 steers weighed 869, sold at 2 o'clock on Thursday, bring 221 and a quarter. Farmers and Ranchers, Salina, Kansas, had a load of steers at 146 on Thursday that weighed 750 pounds, which is exactly par for the board at 224.75, which is just about straight up $10 higher than what the board is. Mobridge, South Dakota, at 1220 on Thursday, they had a load of steers, big load, weighed 961 at 208.50. On the heifer side, in Plainville Livestock Commission, Plainsville, Kansas, there, 240 on Tuesday, had a load of 893-pound heifers, bring 204.35. Coffeyville, Kansas, at 135 on Thursday, had a load of heifers, weighed 713, bring 211 and a quarter. In Lexington, Kentucky, there at Bluegrass Stockyards at 10:07 on Tuesday, they had a load of heifers, weighed 726 at 215. You look at your calf sales this week, and we're slowly starting to see more of the bigger strings of spring-born calves come to town, those ranch calves, and we've seen odds and ends and down the southeast small lots selling all through the summer year, but we're starting to see the fall run. We're still in the hot time of summer, but the fall run is starting, and we're starting to see more of those calves show up, as most everybody that's got calves to sell assumes that when they start delivering all these these video delivery calves and some of these private treaty sales on top of the the big strings coming into the auctions, that this market's going to fade on these calves. Right now we're coming in, and these bigger calves weighing over 550 are quite a ways off of last year's prices, maybe $15 to $20 in spots. But the Pee-wee lightweight calves are bringing almost the same. But calf sales this week, Imperial, Nebraska at 151 on Tuesday had a load of 648 pound steer calves, bring 248 and a quarter. Dodge City, Kansas at Winter Livestock at 136 on Wednesday had a big load of 540 pound heifers, bring 255. But it's time for these cattle feeders to take advantage of the last of the tight supplies. From now through probably January, going into the early time, these yearling placed fed cattle, whenever they come out to be later on this year and early this or later in this fall for the cattle that were placed earlier this summer, the yearling placements, but going up until probably January, there's going to be really tight supplies. We knew that the last of the tight supplies was going to be summer yearlings. We're going to start to see supplies increase as we get into the fall run of calves. So these cattle feeders could really make hay right now if they could just work together and convince each other not to sell out front. When they sell out front, the packers already have a big hold on captive supplies with their own cattle. And then when you sell out front, it just makes that captive supply number bigger, and they've got more leverage on the market, and the cattle feeders have less to fill in around the edges, especially now that our slaughter is so tight. But it just seems like these cattle feeders are always out to take care of themselves and cut each other's throats. And there again this week, as the market was going to be higher, had higher bids all week, we start seeing them dangle carrots out in front of them, and these guys pledging cattle to these packers from now till the end of the year. And they've done it again. But if they could just hold off on that and make the packers come in and negotiate on some cattle each week to fill in around the captive supplies they already have, there's no telling what they could gain on this last run for the bottom of this supply cycle. Because now that the industry's gotten so used to such a small slaughter each week, which it was small again this past week, 535,000 compared to a year ago, way up in the 570s. It's just now that the industry's gotten used to that, there's going to be no mercy when these numbers start getting back, especially when the market ready supplies get filled up. It's just going to be a rough time, probably going in the latter part of 2016, and these cattle feeders will really wish that they had the leverage back that they have right now if they would just take a hold of it. But that pretty much wraps up your cattle market summary for this week. Check out our website there at DV Auction. You can see this report on the StockExchangeNews.com. So from my traveling office here in Amarillo, Texas this week, we'll talk to you next week.